London, 1888. Fog curls through the narrow alleys of Whitechapel, swallowing the gas lamps one by one. The streets are silent, except for the distant clatter of a carriage wheel and the soft drip of rain sliding off rooftops. A woman's footsteps echo against the cobblestone. She walks fast, almost too fast. Someone is following her. A shadow moves behind her. Slow, patient, precise. She turns the corner onto a darker street, the kind the police rarely patrol. A hand reaches out from the blackness. That woman wasn't Mary Jane Kelly. It wasn't Polly Nichols. It wasn't Annie Chapman. And it wasn't Catherine Eddowes. This woman's name is Alice Mackenzie, the forgotten victim, the shadowed chapter, the one death that could rewrite everything we think we know about Jack the Ripper. Tonight, we're going deeper than the standard textbooks, past the famous 5 victims, past the suspects you've heard 1,000 times, past the theories that have turned into legends. Tonight, we're entering the chapter the world refuses to acknowledge, the murder that possibly marked the final act of Jack the Ripper, and the one that police desperately tried to bury. Before we get to Alice Mackenzie, we need to understand the London she walked in. Whitechapel wasn't a neighborhood. It was a nightmare painted over with a thin layer of survival. Whitechapel in 1888, hell on earth. Over 900 lodging houses cramped into a few miles. Crime everywhere. Poverty so extreme people slept standing up. Diseases spreading faster than the police could count. 80,000 plus residents squeezed into streets meant for 20,000. Women forced into prostitution just to buy bread. Alcoholism so common pubs stayed open past dawn. And at night, only the bravest walked outside, or the most desperate. This was the hunting ground of a monster we call Jack the Ripper, the first canonical 5. Most people know the canonical 5: Mary and Polly Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, Mary Jane Kelly. But these 5 were chosen by police decades after the murders. Many experts today believe the list is wrong, too narrow, too convenient. Because in 1888 to 1891, at least 11 women were murdered with similar patterns. And one of them fits the Ripper's signature more than the last 2 canonical victims. Now we meet the woman history ignored. Who was Alice Mackenzie? Alice wasn't beautiful like Mary Kelly. She wasn't famous like Stride. She wasn't well documented like Annie Chapman. She was invisible, a 40-year-old mother, a widow, a woman who lost everything and fell into the same deadly cycle Whitechapel forced onto desperate women. Nightly drinking to escape pain, nightly wandering to earn pennies, nightly risks that could end everything. She lived in the shadows, slept where she could afford, and walked streets her own daughter called a graveyard waiting for bodies. But her death was brutal, surgical, and deliberate. And more importantly, her killer knew exactly what he was doing. 11 months after Mary Jane Kelly's death, most newspapers had declared Jack the Ripper long gone, dead, imprisoned, or simply vanished. But on the night of July 16th, Alice was seen leaving her lodging house around 11:55 p.m. Witnesses say she seemed nervous. She kept looking behind her. She told one woman, "Something feels wrong tonight." Hours later, 1:15 a.m., a dark passage. 2 constables patrolling Castle Alley notice something on the ground. A bundle. They assume it's garbage. One constable shines his lantern, and the alley lights up with horror. The scene. Alice lies flat on her back, legs drawn up, hands at her sides. Her throat slashed twice with surgical precision. 2 clean cuts. But that wasn't all. Her abdomen was mutilated. Not ripped in frenzy. Not hacked wildly. Cut with control, skill, anatomical knowledge. Just like the Ripper's earlier victims. The killer worked in the dark, in an open alley, with constables patrolling literally minutes apart, and still escaped unnoticed, just like Jack the Ripper always did.
Inspector Edmund Reed. Reed, one of the most experienced detectives in Whitechapel, arrives at the scene. He looks at the body. He studies the cuts. He walks around silently for several minutes. Then he says, "It resembles him, but something is off." But another expert arrives. Dr. Thomas Bond, the same surgeon who examined the canonical victims. He studies Alice's wounds carefully. He takes out old case notes. He compares. Then he says the words the newspapers feared. "I believe this is Jack the Ripper." Bond based this on identical throat slashes, abdominal focus, left to right cutting pattern, killer's height, weapon type, and the organized disembowelment technique. The police argument. Some officers wanted to declare the Ripper dead. Others wanted to close the case to avoid public panic. Some believed the Ripper changed his style after Mary Kelly. But the wounds on Alice were too identical to ignore. It wasn't frenzy. It wasn't random. It wasn't drunken violence. It was a ritual continued. After 11 months of silence. This is where the story gets darker. Why hide this murder? The police had been humiliated in 1888. London mocked them. Politicians attacked them. Some officers were fired. So when Alice died, they feared reopening the Ripper panic. Newspapers demanded answers. Tourists stopped visiting. Whitechapel's businesses collapsed. The police were desperate to end the nightmare. So they quietly stated, this was not the Ripper. Even though the chief surgeon disagreed. Crime scene details matched the Ripper pattern. The alley was known Ripper territory. And the killer escaped with the same skill. To this day, experts believe the police buried the case on purpose. Alice Mackenzie's murder reopened every major theory. Suspect 1, the American doctor. A traveling surgeon who disappeared after Kelly's murder. And returned to London exactly 1 week before Alice died. Suspect 2, Severin Klosowski, George Chapman. A poisoner later convicted of killing women. He lived only minutes from Castle Alley. He had medical knowledge. He was active during the murders. Suspect 3, Jacob Levy. A butcher with violent tendencies. His mental health collapsed around 1889, matching the timeline perfectly. Suspect 4, the silent constable. A policeman rumored to know the truth. Possibly even involved in escorting victims for safety. This theory exploded after Alice's death because the killer escaped between patrol cycles. No one heard footsteps. No one saw blood trails. The area was tightly patrolled. Only someone who knew the routine could get away. And that's why Alice's murder still haunts experts to this day. We won't go into gore, but here is what Dr. Bond officially documented. 2 deep throat incisions. A long abdominal cut. Several targeted internal injuries. No signs of robbery. No sexual assault. No struggle, suggesting she trusted the killer. No hesitation marks, the killer knew exactly where to cut. This level of precision is nearly identical to the killer's earlier patterns. Bond's final line. The murderer had anatomical knowledge and the same hand as previous Whitechapel cases. Because without her story, the Ripper timeline ends abruptly. Her murder proves the killer didn't stop after Mary Kelly. The police hid important information. The Ripper changed patterns to avoid capture. The canon list is incomplete. London's darkest nightmare lasted longer than history teaches. Alice Mackenzie wasn't an outlier. She wasn't a copycat victim. She wasn't a random street crime. She was likely the true final victim of Jack the Ripper. A woman erased from history because she appeared less important to the narrative. But here, in this story, she gets the recognition she deserved. There are 4 major theories. 1. He died shortly after Alice. Many killers stop only when they're physically unable to continue. 2. He was institutionalized. Several suspects entered asylums around 1890 to 1891. 3. He left London, most likely. The Ripper may have fled after Alice's murder, knowing the police were closing in. 4. He became one of history's forgotten faces. A man who vanished back into society, unnoticed, unpunished, unknown. Moral of the story. Even in death, society judged these women by their poverty, not their humanity. Alice Mackenzie wasn't famous. She wasn't glamorous. She wasn't wealthy. She wasn't a perfect victim. She was a mother. A survivor. A woman trying to live one more day in a city that gave her nothing. Her death teaches us this. A life doesn't become more important because the world pays attention. And it doesn't become less important because the world doesn't. Every forgotten name. Every untold story. Every erased victim deserves to be remembered. Tonight, you remembered her. And that matters.